So you want to be notified, please click the bell icon next to the subscription so that you never miss every time I post. So I'm gonna be reading from my little notebook here. I tried writing down some things, but there's just so much information out there and so many articles, so many things. Here we go, like this. So there's just so much information, so I just couldn't write it all down. I've been writing this like for 2 hours. I bet it's gonna take me less to read it out though. So Amanda Knox is 34 years old right now, and when she was convicted she was only 20, and she was exonerated in 2015, so it's been 6 years since she was released from prison. And she was convicted in 2007, and obviously it was wrongful conviction, so she was released. So what happened is Amanda's flatmate got murdered, and so this is the overall story, and Amanda called the police, but there were lots of things that happened which we will get into, and she falsely said that somebody else, her boss at the time, was guilty of this because of pressure from the police and the interrogation, but it didn't end up being that way. So let's see what happened, right? And of course we don't know what exactly happened, right? Every time we discuss a case, we were not in their shoes, we were not in the crime scene, etc, etc. We were not like the police. We're just people looking in. So let me tell you about Amanda. Amanda Knox, she grew up in Seattle, Washington. She has 3 younger sisters. She has a mother who is German called Edda, and she is a math teacher. And her dad, Kurt, was a vice president of finance at a Macy's, which is like a department store in America, at her local Macy's. And her parents were divorced when she was just a little kid. She has a stepfather who's married to her mom, called Chris, and I cannot read my own writing, and he's a consultant. So she's described as being smart. She was on the dean's list at her university, which was University of Washington. So this was at 2007. She was in university and she was 20 years old. And we don't have like deans here in the UK. If you don't know what being in the dean's list means, I believe it's like the best of the best students in the university that make it there. And I think they get like awards and stuff. So she was described also to have an outgoing personality. So she had been previously to Italy when she was 15 on a family vacation, and she was like, she wanted to go back there because her mom got like a book about Italy and she was super interested in it. So I guess when she was 20, she decided to go to university there in a city called Perugia. So she chose Perugia because it had many universities, and it was actually a popular town that foreign university students went to, because it had less tourists compared to a bigger city like Florence, and it was just a popular destination for foreign students. She lived in a 4-bedroom ground floor apartment. It was called Via della Pergola 7. She lived semi-basement. So sometimes when you're walking on the street level, there are some windows that you can see just below the street level. I think that's what kind of apartment this was. And in that semi-basement apartment, who were their neighbors, lived Italian young men. So her other flatmate was Meredith Kercher. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She was a student in Leeds University, and she was 21 years old. She was just 1 year older than Amanda Knox. So this was like a house share where, university students or people who don't want to live by themselves live together. So Meredith Kercher was there as an exchange student from Britain, which Leeds University is in Britain, in the UK. So she was in Italy on her exchange year. And of course, they lived with two other women that were in their late 20s. They were trainee lawyers. So Amanda and Meredith both moved in September of 2007. Meredith moved in on the 10th, and Amanda moved in on the 20th. And Amanda started working at a part-time job. It was a bar called Le Chic, I think. And her boss, the owner of Le Chic, was a Congolese man called Dia Patrick Lumumba. So she previously told her flatmates that he wasn't giving her money, so her payment, basically, her wages. But later on, her boss would go on to deny this. And we don't know if this is true or false. This is just, I believe, he said, she said. Amanda was also said to prefer to socialize with her Italian friends rather than her English friends. So, as I said, this basement, I think it was below them. I think it's in the same building. So this is a semi-basement flat, and one of the residents was called Giacomo Silenzi. So the girls were friendly with the Italian men that were living in the semi-basement flat. Both of the girls, Amanda and Meredith, were friendly with the guys that were living in the basement flat, the semi-basement flat. So Silenzi was one of these guys, and he was spending time in the girls' flat because they enjoyed the same taste in music. So when they were returning back home one night around 2 a.m., it was mid-October, Amanda and Meredith and Silenzi met another friend of Silenzi, which I think he knew from a basketball court. They probably played basketball together, and his name was Rudy Guede. I don't know how to pronounce that. Guede. So Rudy attached himself to this group and asked about Amanda. Doesn't say why. I don't know, but he apparently asked about Amanda. He was invited to the flat by the Italians, to the Italians' flat, to the boys' flat. So Amanda Knox and Meredith Kercher joined them in the flat around 4:30 a.m. in the morning. Kercher left. She said that she was going to go to bed, and Amanda followed suit. And Rudy Guede stayed in that flat, the basement, for the rest of the night. So Amanda said that and one thing led to another, I believe. So Rudy Guede, when I refer to Guede, his name is Rudy. So Rudy visited the basement that day. When they went out on 25th of October, so like 5 days after this, Amanda and Meredith went to a concert. Amanda met Solicito. His name was Rafael Solicito. He was a 23 years old software engineer student, so he was studying software engineering. She then started spending more time with Rafael in his flat. It was 5 minutes away from where the girls were staying. November 1st rolls around, and the Italians who lived in their building was away because it was a public holiday. After Meredith watched a movie at a friend's house, she returned home at 9 p.m. that day, and she was alone in the building. The next day, on November 2nd, Amanda called Meredith right after 12 at midday. Her phone wasn't picked up, and Amanda was worried because Meredith always had her phone in her jeans pocket. Amanda was worried because she didn't pick up, because obviously if you have your phone on you all the time, there's no way that you wouldn't hear it or look at it like a moment later and call back, right? So Amanda calls her friend Filomena Romanelli, who was one of the lawyers that stayed in their flat with Meredith, Amanda, and another one. So Amanda was worried that something happened to Meredith because she didn't pick up. She saw earlier that morning that the front door was open and bloodstains, including a footprint, was present in the bathroom. And Meredith's door was locked. Amanda and Rafael Solicito, so Amanda and her boyfriend, I'm assuming at the time, went to their flat, Via della Pergola 7. So when they got to their flat, the girls' flat, they got no answer from Meredith. They tried, knocking on the door, but there was no answer, so they tried breaking down the door in hopes of, getting in. But they couldn't, and they kind of damaged the door in the process. So they must have been trying like really hard to break this door. At around 12:47, Amanda calls her mother, and she basically told the situation, and she was told to call the police and say there's an emergency. So Solicito, which Amanda was seeing this guy, called the National Italian Police Force at 12:51. It was like 4 minutes later. So Amanda calls her mom. Her boyfriend calls the police right after. He tells the police that there was a break-in and nothing was taken from the house because the door was open, right? But the emergency that he said was that Meredith Kercher's door was locked and they couldn't get in, and she wasn't answering. She also didn't answer her phone, and there were bloodstains. So police arrives to investigate about an abandoned phone, which was Kercher's Italian line, and Romanelli arrives. Romanelli, who is the lawyer that lives there, by the way, she takes over the situation and explains that she had an English phone which was handed in because it rang when Amanda called it. On discovering that Meredith's English phone was dumped, Romanelli notes on her neck. So 2 detectives arrive at the scene. They're the first ones. It is Monica Napoleoni and Marco Chiara. I don't know how to pronounce their surnames, so I'm gonna refer to them by their first names. So Monica, the younger detective, and Marco is her supervisor. Monica interviews everyone. She quizzes Amanda on why she didn't raise the alarm immediately. And it was later seen that it was anomalous of her behavior, not being alarmed. Amanda says that Monica was hostile towards them from the beginning. So the police lady, the detective, was hostile to them. And the superior detective Marco discounted the signs of a break-in, and he deemed them clearly faked by the killer. So he said that the break-in signs must have been faked by whoever killed Meredith. In the initial interviews, the police weren't told of the extent of Silenzi and Kercher's relationship, but they were clearly dating at that point. On November 4th, Marco said, this detective, said that someone who Meredith Kercher knew and let into the building by her might have been responsible for her death. So it was not like a break-in because there weren't any signs. So Meredith must have let somebody that she already knew in, and she was then murdered by that person. And that same day where this detective said this, Rudy Guede is believed to have left Perugia. Very sus. So, on November 1st, where they discovered Meredith's body, Amanda says that she got a text from her boss. Her boss's name, Lumumba, if you remember. And her boss said that her shift was cancelled that night, so she didn't have to come and work. So Amanda stayed over at her boyfriend Solicito's apartment, which was 5 minutes away from their house, remember? She went back to the apartment on the morning that the body was discovered. So there she realizes that there's blood and the door is ajar. On November 5th, at night, Amanda goes to the police station willingly, and this time, before November 5th, when she was questioned, etc., she was not given a lawyer. So on November 5th, Amanda goes to the police, and she was arrested along with her boyfriend Solicito and her boss Lumumba on November 6, 2007. Charges against her boss Lumumba was shortly dropped, and at her trial, Amanda maintained her story. She testified that she was with Solicito all night and didn't know about the murder. A group of police didn't believe in her story, so they continued her investigation. Amanda says that she requested a lawyer, but the police said that it would make things worse for her. They said that she would go to jail for 30 years. She also said that she wasn't allowed access to food, water, and bathroom. But then the police that were interrogating her, Ficara and Lorena, said that she was given access to all of those things. This was when they were on trial and they were giving testimony. So that the police said that Amanda was asked about a lawyer but didn't have one, and Amanda also said that she was hit by the police during her investigation, during the interrogation. But the police police denied and said that she wasn't. So Amanda says something about her interrogation, and I'm gonna read it to you now. So during her trial she said, "I wasn't stressed and pressurized, I was manipulated. Probably I didn't remember well because I was traumatized, so I should try to remember something else." They said they were convinced that I was protecting someone. They were saying, "Who is it? Who is it?" They were saying, "Here's the message on your telephone. You wanted to meet up with him. You're a stupid liar." Amanda also said that the policewoman was saying, come on, remember." And then, slap, she hit me. Then, come on, and slap, another one. So, she said that she was basically hit during her interrogation with this police. And because of this, under pressure, Amanda said that Amanda falsely stated that she was at home when Meredith Kercher was killed. But remember, she was told by her boss that she didn't have to come to work, so she was at Cassato's house. Amanda thought that the murderer was her boss, but he was at the bar at the time where the murder took place, serving people, customers. So because of what Amanda said in the moment, which is, claimed that because she was under pressure, she was abused, etc., all three of them, Cassation, Amanda, and her boss, were taken in and charged with the murder of Meredith Kercher. On November 11th, she had her first meeting with her legal counsel. This is like 10 days after the murder, where she had ongoing questioning and stuff, and this is the first time she has legal counsel. So Marco, the more experienced police detective, thought that the arrests were prematurely made, and he dropped out of the investigation at this point. And Monica, the younger detective, it was her first time being in charge of a major investigation, So, Amanda's boss, who was at work at the time of the murder, had alibis because he was serving customers, and the customers, said that the guy was at work, he was serving us drinks. While this was going on, the investigation, the police found blood-stained fingerprints which belonged to Rudy Guede on the bedding under Meredith Kercher's body. So Rudy, who had ran away to Germany, was extradited back to Italy to questioning. And now both Amanda Knox, Cassation, and Rudy Guede were charged with committing the murder altogether. On November 30th, that's 30 days, a whole month after, there was a trial with the judges, and judges endorsed the charges of the murder. So Amanda and Cassation were both in the detention awaiting trial. Amanda said that she had been brainwashed by the police into accusing her boss and implicating herself because of, the abuse and stuff she endured, according to her. And at the time, she became the subject of media's attention. All of the attention of this case was directed to her. And now I'm gonna read you about what happened during the trial. If you remember, Rudy fled to Germany shortly after the murder happened. So on November 19th, 2007, there was a Skype conversation with his friend Benedetti, where Rudy didn't or Solicito as being in the building on the night of the murder. Later, he changed his story, and then he indirectly implicated them in the murder, which he denied involvement in. Rudy was arrested in Germany on November 20th, and then he was extradited back on December 6th. Rudy opted to be tried in a special fast-track procedure by Judge Micheli. So he wasn't charged with having had a knife. He didn't testify, and he wasn't questioned about his statements, which had altered from his original version, which is, it is suspect as hell. His testimony literally changed. So Rudy Guede, I don't know, was convicted of murder, but the official judge's report on the conviction specified that he had not had a knife or stabbed the victim or stolen any of her possessions. So the judge's finding that Rudy must have had an accomplice gave support to the later prosecution of Amanda. So because they didn't find a knife that Rudy could have killed Meredith with, they thought he must have had an accomplice. So all three of them were arrested. So the judges reasoned that Rudy Guede would not have faked a burglary because it would have been pointed to him in view of his own earlier break-ins, though at the time of the murder he was known to police only for being detained for trespassing in Florence. Despite Rudy saying that Meredith had let him in through the entry door, the judges decided against the possibility of Rudy's having gotten in simply by knocking on the door, because they thought that Meredith wouldn't have opened the cottage door to him. Although she already knew him, remember, because she was seeing Silenzi, and Rudy was Silenzi's friend. So in his original account, Rudy said that Meredith's confrontation with her killer had started at the entry door. So he's claiming to be a witness. And then a legal commentator on the case thought that insufficient consideration had been given to the possibility that Rudy had called at the house on some pretext while Meredith was alone in the house, and she was murdered after she opened the door to him and faked a burglary to cover his tracks. In October 2008, this is a year later, Rudy was found guilty of the sexual assault and murder of Meredith Kercher and sentenced to 30 years imprisonment. His prison sentence was ultimately reduced to 16 years, and he was given an early release date in December 2020 and authorized to finish his sentence with community service. And Amanda was dissatisfied with this early release and spoke publicly against it. It is so stupid. He literally killed someone. Why is he released right now? So if we talk about what happened to Amanda and her boyfriend at the time, Solicito, they pled not guilty on charges of murder, sexual assault, and carrying a knife, stimulating a burglary, and the theft of €300, 2 credit cards, and 2 mobile phones. This was in 2009. Their trial happened. There was no charge in relation to Kercher's missing keys to the entry door and her bedroom door, although Rudy Guede's trial judgment said he hadn't stolen anything. There was a separate but concurrent trial of Amanda with the same jury as her murder trial, in which she was accused of falsely denouncing her employer for the murder, friend would act. Like, how the detective was like, why weren't you as alarmed when you discovered, the blood and stuff? But then again, you can't really be like, everyone acts the same way when they are faced with such trauma. There is the prosecution case and the defense case. If you're interested, we can quickly look over them. So the prosecution basically says that Amanda's first call on November 2, the day after they found the body, I think, was to Amanda's English phone. This was when they found the body. So on November 2, the prosecution says that Amanda calls Meredith's English phone, and then to see if, Meredith's phone has been found, and her boyfriend Solicito had tried to break in the bedroom door because after he and Amanda locked it behind them, they realized they had left something that might incriminate them. But as you remember, Amanda said that they were trying to break down the door because the police said, like, they cannot break the door because they don't want to cause damage to private property. Sure. Amanda's call to her mother in Seattle, a quarter of an hour before the discovery of the body, was said by prosecutors to show Amanda was acting as if something serious might have happened before the point in time when an innocent person would have such concern. But then again, she couldn't, her best friend wasn't picking up her calls, so she called her mom, being like, what am I supposed to do? I feel like it's a perfectly reasonable way to act. The prosecution had a witness. They had a homeless man called Antonio Corralato, who said Amanda and Solicito were in a nearby square on the night of the murder. The prosecutors advanced a single piece of forensic evidence linking Solicito to Meredith's bedroom where the murder had taken place. His DNA was found on Meredith's bra clasp. Giulia Bongiorno, leading Solicito's defense, questioned how Solicito's DNA could have gotten on the small metal clasp of the bra, but not the fabric of the bra back strap from which it was torn. Solicito's defense attorney, I think, asked, how can you touch the hook without touching the cloth? The back strap of the bra had multiple traces of DNA belonging to Rudy. According to prosecution's reconstruction, Amanda had attacked Meredith in her bedroom, repeatedly banged her head against a wall, forcefully held her face, and tried to strangle her. Rudy, Amanda, and Solicito had removed Meredith's jeans and held her on her hands and knees while Rudy had sexually abused her. Amanda had cut Meredith Kercher with a knife before inflicting the fatal stab wound, then faked a burglary. The judge pointedly questioned Amanda about a number of details, especially concerning her phone calls to her mother and Romanelli. This is just a story, in my opinion. This just sounds like they're just trying to incriminate her. Like, for what? There's no evidence that she was there. They didn't find any DNA that shows that she did it. Like, the fingerprints were Rudy's, literally right under Meredith's body. So the defense argued that Rudy was a lone killer who had murdered Meredith after breaking in. Amanda's lawyers pointed out that no shoe prints, clothing fibers, hairs, fingerprints, skin cells, or DNA of Amanda were found on Meredith's body, clothes, handbag, or anywhere else in her bedroom. witnesses and emphasized that Rudy Juede's shoe prints, fingerprints, and DNA were found in Meredith Kercher's bedroom. Rudy's DNA was on the strap of Meredith's bra, which had been torn off, and his DNA was found on a vaginal swab taken from her body. Guede's bloody palm print was on a pillow that had been placed under Meredith's hips, and his DNA mixed with Meredith Kercher's was on the left sleeve of her bloody sweatshirt and in bloodstains inside her shoulder bag, from which €300 and credit cards has been stolen. Both sets of defense lawyers requested the judges to order independent reviews of evidence, including DNA and the compatibility of the wounds with the alleged murder weapon. The request was denied. In final pleas to court, Solicito's lawyer described Amanda Knox as a weak and fragile girl who had been duped by the police. Amanda Knox's lawyer pointed to the text messages between Amanda and Meredith as showing that they had been friends, which they were. They went out, they hanged out with the Italian boys together. So I don't understand what her motive would be to kill her friend all of a sudden in such a brutal way. And they had so much evidence linking Rudy to the murder of Meredith. And the verdict and controversy which surround this case is, here we go, let's read it. So, December 5th, 2009, Amanda, now she's 22 years old, she's convicted on charges of faking a break-in, defamation, sexual violence, murder, and she was sentenced to 26 years imprisonment. Solicito was sentenced to 25 years. In Italy, opinion was not generally favorable towards Amanda. This must have been because she was from, America. She was a foreigner. She was out of the country. It's kind of like you trust your own people before you trust, other people, even though there is so much evidence that links Rudy to the murder. An Italian jurist remarked, "This is the simplest and fairest criminal trial one could possibly think of in terms of evidence." In the United States, the verdict was widely viewed as a miscarriage of justice. American lawyers expressed concern about pre-trial publicity and statements excluded from the murder case being allowed for a contemporaneous civil suit heard by the same jury. Amanda Knox's defense attorneys were seen as, by American standards, passive in the face of the prosecution's use of character assassination. Although acknowledging that Amanda Knox might have been a person of interest for American police in similar circumstances, journalist Nina Burleigh, who had spent months in Perugia during the trial, while researching a book on the case, said the conviction had not been based on solid proof, and there had been resentment towards the Amanda Knox family that amounted to anti-Americanism. A number of U.S. experts spoke out against DNA evidence used by the prosecution. According to consultant Gregory Hampikin, the Italian forensic police could not replicate the key result, claimed to have successfully identified DNA at levels below those an American laboratory would attempt to analyze, and never supplied validation of their methods. Amanda was indicted in 2010 on charges of defamation against the police for saying she had been struck across her head during the interview in which she incriminated herself. And the police, not like they never lie, it's not like they're above the law, they're human as well, so they're capable of lying and saying that we didn't hit this person when they might as well have. It's like, aren't there any cameras in the interrogation room to see if it actually happened or not? Acquittal Salicito to 25. And on 22nd of December, Rudy Guede's sentence was reduced to 16 years on appeal. 2010, a year later, in May, Guede files a second appeal. 24th of November in 2010, Amanda Knox and Salicito appeal opens. On the 16th of December the same year, Italy's Court of Cassation upholds Rudy's conviction. The next year, in 2011, 29th of June, independent experts say forensic evidence against Amanda Knox and Salicito is flawed. On 3rd of October 2011, a second-level trial finds Amanda and Salicito not guilty. 2013, 26th of March, verdict set aside, case to be reheard. And it's been a whole, 2 years. 2014, 30th of January, second level, reheard. 2015, 27th of March, Italian Supreme Court definitively exonerates Amanda Knox and Salicito. I cannot imagine being falsely accused of something like this and just so many of the years of your life is just gone. Obviously I was not there, but there is clear evidence that Rudy did it. Let me know what you think about this case. Do you believe that Amanda and Salicito are innocent? Were they involved? Or is it just Rudy Guede that was, guilty of this? Because it seems like lots of the DNA evidence and of the fingerprints, everything that relates to what happened seems to be pointing towards Rudy Guede. And to try to regain her freedom, Amanda wrote a letter to Corrado Maria da Colon, Secretary General of the Italy-USA Foundation, the day after regaining her freedom. After she regained her freedom, She said, "To hold my hand and offer support and respect throughout the obstacles and the controversy, there were Italians. There was the Italy-USA Foundation and many others that shared my pain, and that helped me survive with hope. I'm eternally grateful for their caring hospitality and their courageous commitment. To those that wrote me, that defended me, that stood by me, that prayed for me, I am forever grateful to you." On March 27th, 2015, the ultimate appeal by Knox and Salicito was heard by the Supreme Court of Cassation. It ruled that the case was without foundation, thereby definitively acquitting them of the murder. I don't understand why they didn't do this earlier. The court ruled that both of them were innocent of involvement in the murder. On September 7th, 2015, the court published the report on the acquittal, citing glaring errors, investigative amnesia, and guilty omissions, where a 5-judge panel said the prosecutors who won the original murder conviction failed to prove a whole truth to back up the scenario that Amanda Knox and Salicito killed Meredith Kercher. They also stated that there were sensational failures in the investigation and that the lower court had been guilty of culpable omissions in ignoring expert testimony that had demonstrated contamination of evidence. And on January 24th, 2019, the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, ordered Italy to pay compensation to Amanda Knox for violating her rights in the hours after her arrest in Perugia. Italy was ordered to pay Amanda Knox 18,400 euros, about 20,800 US dollars, for not providing her with either a lawyer or a competent interpreter when she was first held in custody. Remember, she went 10 days where they didn't give her a lawyer. And I bet that she did not that good of Italian, and it probably was hard to communicate between the fundraising events for non-profits, including the Innocence Project. In June 2019, Amanda returned to Italy as a keynote speaker at a conference on criminal justice, where she was part of a panel titled Trial by Media. She's married to her longtime boyfriend, author Christopher Robinson, who's connected